Okay, so we've got an example here of a motor vehicle right of use. XZ Ltd bought a motor vehicle for its chief operating officer, because he was performing well. They bought him Mercedes-Benz Viano from McAfee Cars for an amount of 1.5 million rands. The CEO was responsible for all maintenance costs. So what is our thought process in terms of the logical way of calculating the dim supply? So what would this be? This would be a dim supply. It would be a dim supply for the CEO, which is a fringe benefit basically, which we spoke about in saying that it has its own value, calculation-wise. So what did he say about a motor vehicle? It is a motor vehicle as defined. So the first step that we take, we'll go on and say, let's take the VAT amount out of the acquisition amount. So we'd say 1 over 5, 100 over 115 times 1.5 million rand, right? What do we get? Let's see, the amount that we get, 115 times 1 million rands, 1.5 million rands. So we get something wrong here. Okay, let's start again. Get 100 divided by 115 equals to times 1.5 million rands. We get 1,304,348 rands. That is the exclusive of the VAT amount, right? So now, because we are dealing with a motor vehicle, there's a few things that we have to think about. So now, if we're dealing with a motor vehicle, we bring in our percentage of 0.03%, and we bring that over with this calc, and we should get a value. So we shouldn't have lost that. So let me start again. 15 divided by 115 equals to, sorry about that, 100 divided by 115 times 1,500,000. Okay, then we times it by times 0.003%. Right? We get an amount which is now 913. Okay. Because he's responsible for maintenance costs, what do? We can now subtract the 85 rand. So minus 85 rand, we get an amount. Minus 85 rand, so minus 85. We get an amount which is now equals to 3,828. Okay, that's where we are. So now we can start getting excited about getting our VAT. So now what is our VAT amount? So now we bring in our tax fraction. So we say this amount now, we can now times it by our tax fraction of 15 over 115. And let's just say that you used the motor vehicle for 3 months. So say, okay, so now let's just work out the tax fraction. So 15 0.15 divided by 115 equals to times 3828, which gives us 499. So 499 per month. So since he had use of the motor vehicle for 3 months, we times it by 3. And we get total output VAT of, output VAT would be times 3. So the output VAT that my gentleman was paying is 1,498 in terms of the dim supply for the 3 months that he had use of the right of use of the motor vehicle. So that would be the output VAT that the COO would have to pay out to SARS. So we can also get a situation now. Let's say we have the very same situation, but the gentleman was now not responsible for the full maintenance cost, but he was contributing towards repairs of the vehicle, and was contributing, let's say, 2,000 rands every month. So in that situation, we'd not be minusing 85 rand like we did here, but we'd be minusing 2,000 rands. So for the sake of just trying to shorten our calculation, we basically come here and say we're still dealing with a motor vehicle. So let's say we came here in terms of the 0.3%, the value we had was 3913. So we then say less 2,000, right? And that would give us the remaining value of 1,913. Then in terms of that, we then go on to times by the tax fraction, which would give us an amount. So we'd have 15 divided by 1.5 plus 2 times 1918. We have 250 as output VAT per month, 250 per month. But because he had use of the vehicle for 3 months, we say times 3. So therefore output VAT would be 750 in this instance where he was making contribution for repairs. And that would have been a different calculation as opposed to this one. So his output VAT comes down substantially because of the 2,000 rand contribution that he was basically making towards repairs of the car. If he was making contribution in terms of fuel or acquisition of the car, there would not be any deduction whatsoever. So his VAT output would be based on this full amount of, right, of 3913, which would have attracted VAT at 15 over 115, of course. In that instance, it would have been 15 divided by 115 equals to times 3913. Paid VAT would have been, output VAT in this instance, it would have been 510 per month. On a monthly basis, 3 months, it would have now given us 1,530. But if he was now not basically getting anything in return, because this would have been deductions which didn't attract any deductions which didn't attract any accountability being accounted. So there are no deductions being accounted by the whole value. But based on this amount of the output, and this is the output here, it basically makes sense. If this amount was higher than this amount, something would have been wrong. So those are situations that you must ask yourself about, because in this case we would have had a likely contribution for a fixed cost, or for an exempt supply, or for a denied supply. So let's be aware of that. And this is the exciting part about a motor vehicle. Another difference that can come about is that now if we're dealing with something which is not a motor car, but now we're dealing with the 0.06% factor, it would likely be the same. However, it would not apply in terms of having to take out the actual VAT amount, because anything that would have had input VAT, that means that it would have likely had input VAT. That would mean it would have been taxable supply. So I would imagine we would not have to apply this fraction of having to take out the exclusive amount, because it's not a VAT amount. I'm not sure though, but it's just the logic that I'm trying to think about. Something I have to look into and maybe inquire about, if it's for something which is not a motor car, where we apply the 0.06% situation. So the situation would be exactly the same. However, it would also be the same logical reasoning that we applied over here. So that is the part that we need to think about in terms of motor vehicles, how we come to the output VAT that would come about in terms of the denied supply portion having to be recognized for output VAT. We also need to be mindful about in terms of contributions that are made, because if they're taxable contributions, they're not in terms of a fixed cost for the motor vehicle, SARS will likely want a portion of that output VAT for the additional receipt. For the 6% part, which is likely your bus, your delivery truck, SARS will likely definitely always be claiming in terms of that additional receipt, because it would always be a taxable supply, unless if it's maybe a contribution which is made towards fuel, which would be a zero-rated supply. So just look at the underlying principles that they try to give you in trying to throw you off and to trick you as well. So it's quite straightforward if you just apply a bit of logic and a bit of reasoning behind, and you'll get to understand that a motor vehicle example is not really too bad of an example. It's just really an example where you must just really think critically and just assess what the scenario is. And that's where we are with this situation.